Hello, and welcome to another edition of Storytime with Uncle Corey. Hello, hey, it's good to see you again. I am particularly excited to share this book with you today because there's something really exciting going on right now that relates to the book that we're going to read. I've been waiting for the special time. It's Memorial Day weekend, and reports from Pappy C say that the cicada have arrived in Pennsylvania. Do you know what cicadas are? Cicada is a type of insect, a bug. Ugh. No, they're actually really cool. Cicadas are one of the neatest insects in the whole world because of their cycle of life, and we'll learn about that. They take long, sometimes some of them take long periods of time between when we see them. And it happens to be that this year is a special year of when 17-year cicadas are coming out of the ground and are climbing up in trees and making a lot of noise, trying to attract a buddy to make little cicadas with. And it doesn't happen all that time. Like I said, it's 17 years. So the last time that this group of cicadas was seen was in 2004, long before when most of you were born. It's been 17 years. And like I said, we have a book today, Cicadas, Strange and Wonderful, by Lawrence Pringle, illustrated by Meryl Henderson. And she does a particularly good job. She's a very good artist. They are going to teach us all about cicadas. So let's get started. What do you say? Cicadas, strange and wonderful. So the first image in the book is of a woman reading kind of a scary headline on a newspaper. It reads, "Town braces for insect invasion. Hordes of insects overrun community. Attack of the 17-year locust." Not so much. Almost every year in parts of the United States, you may read or hear news of these unusual insects. Are they dangerous? Nope. The insects are harmless cicadas, not locusts. People get that confused all the time. Cicadas are not locusts. Cicadas live on every continent in the world except Antarctica, and their buzzing sounds are a common outdoor noise, a symbol of a sunny summer day. In North America, certain kinds of cicada appear in huge numbers. I mean huge numbers. These species live mostly in the eastern United States. So out here on the West Coast, where Uncle Doug and I live, we don't have any cicadas. But you all who live on the East Coast can enjoy this amazing event. And we're kind of jealous that we don't get to see them. Cicadas can be found as far west as maybe Nebraska or Kansas or Oklahoma or even Texas, but not really further to the west than that. Every 13 or 17 years in different places, millions and millions of cicadas suddenly emerge from the ground. These amazing insects are called periodical cicadas. No other insects in North America excite such wonder and curiosity. Let's see, can you say the word cicada? We'll sound it out together. How's that sound? It's K, like the letter K, da, cicada. The word cicada means buzzer because they make a lot of noise. It means buzzer in Latin. In 1634, pilgrims settling in New England heard this loud buzzing of the population of periodical cicadas. The pilgrims worried as they saw countless cicadas crawling over the ground and climbing plants. They remembered the stories of the plagues from the Bible. And these locusts destroyed crops. So pilgrims were the first to mistakenly call cicadas locusts. Locusts are actually grasshoppers. Have you ever seen a grasshopper? Grasshopper looks like this. And that's very different than what a cicada is. They are called short-horned grasshoppers because they have a pair of short antennae on their heads. Locusts and other grasshoppers are related to crickets and katydids. All of these insects are in the group order called Orthoptera, and all these insects have chewing mouth parts. The Pilgrims had some reason to fear locusts. Throughout history, vast swarms of these grasshoppers had destroyed corn and wheat and other crops. And in the 1800s, clouds of Rocky Mountain locusts often flew eastward, eating food crops and other plants of the Great Plains. Even now, in the 21st century, where we live right now, locusts sometimes harm crops in Idaho and other western states. And locusts are particularly serious pests in Africa and in India. Here you can see a picture of how they can be really dense in the air. All of these little dots here, these are all locusts, grasshoppers, flying in the air, getting into everything and eating all the plant life. Cicadas are not locusts. Cicadas are related actually to aphids, leafhoppers, and spittlebugs. That's kind of a fun word, isn't it? Spittlebugs. Can you say that? Spittlebugs. All members of these insect order are called the Homoptera. All of these insects have sucking mouth parts. So for them to feed, they pierce the roots or the stems of a plant and then suck out the sap from the plant. Usually the plants are not harmed. Also, cicadas do not bite or sting. They are harmless to people. So they don't bite or they don't sting. All they do is feed on plants. So here's some pictures of different kinds of leaf hoppers that are out there. There's the scarlet and green leaf hopper, and the saddled leaf hopper, the meadow spittlebug, and here's a two-lined spittlebug. I wonder if he's called two lines because he has those two lines going across his body. What do you think? I think that's probably why. And then here's some images of aphids. They're kind of small bugs, and these are particularly known for eating plants. You might hear Mommy say she's trying to get rid of the aphids in her garden. And then there's the cicadas. Now, some of them get really big. There are over 2,500 species of cicadas alive on Earth, with new kinds being discovered all the time. Australia has several hundred species. Scientists expect to identify many more in the coming years. England has just one. It's the New Forest cicada, which may have died out. Most cicadas measure about an inch or two long and are brown, black, or green in color. Some cicadas get really big. A Chinese species is even 7 inches long. That's pretty big. Can you imagine that? Here's kind of some pictures of some of these different cicadas. And this is a picture of that Chinese cicada to show you how big it is in comparison to the ones that we can get in North America. Most cicadas measure about an inch or two long in length and are brown, black, and green in color. Some are colorful. A species in Ecuador with red and green wing markings are called the stop-and-go cicada. Isn't that kind of funny? Like a stoplight. It's red for stop, green for go. Some are odd-looking, like the male bladder cicadas of Australia, which have large balloon-like abdomens. With their exceptionally long lives and huge numbers, the periodical cicadas of North America get plenty of attention. However, every year, smaller numbers of other kinds of cicadas emerge from the ground and fill summer days with their buzzing songs. They are often called the dog day cicadas. They are also called annual cicadas since they emerge as adults every year. Most adult annual or dog day cicadas emerge in July or August, usually in the hottest days of the summer. Some people think that the term dog days refers to dogs, and how they suffer without water and shade in the summertime. Dog days is actually a term used by ancient people who studied the night skies. They called one group of stars Canis Major, meaning big dog. And here you can see what that constellation of stars looks like in the sky. Kind of looks like the shape of a dog. Here's the dog's head, his front legs, his back legs, and even his tail. In the constellation, the brightest star is Sirius, the dog star. It's right here, like where the dog's collar would be, right there. It is the brightest of all the stars seen from Earth, except for the sun. The sun is also a star. In the summer, Sirius rises and sets with the sun. Ancient Egyptians and Romans believed that the heat from the Sirius dog star also added to the heat of the sun. So they called the hottest days of the weeks of summer the dog days. Adult cicadas have strong bodies, 2 eyes set wide apart, and 3 small, simple eyes called ocelli. They have 2 short antennae, and the cicada body is divided into 3 main parts: the head, the thorax, and abdomen. So let's look at this a little bit. So here we have an illustration of a cicada. He has 2 big eyes on either side of his head, but then he also has those 3 little ones in the middle. He has 5 eyes. Imagine how weird that would be. Can you imagine having to get glasses for the 5 eyes? How weird that would look. And he has a little, he's got little antenna here, but lower, like kind of around where his mouth would be. And then his body is broken into 3 different sections. There's the head here, the thorax, which is here, and then the abdomen, which is this back part. Here we can see it on a different illustration, even a little clearer. We have the head up here, and then the thorax, where the wings attach, and then the abdomen, which is the long back part of the body. They have 6 legs and 2 pairs of wings, which are all attached at the thorax. Their wings are marked with a pattern of sturdy veins. So you can see here all the veins running through the wings of the cicada. You can see it on this illustration too. Many cicadas are strong, fast flyers, though they sometimes smack into tree limbs or other things. This doesn't seem to harm them, as they are built with tough bodies. Cicadas grip tree bark with strong claws, then suck fluids from the plant. They do this mostly to take water in so that they don't dry out, and it helps keep their body cool during hot summer days. Now, let's learn a little bit about how they make that sound that they make, that they're so known for. To make a chirping sound, a cricket, a male cricket in fact, scrapes part of his one wing against the other part of a wing. Here's a picture of what a cricket does to make the sound that you might be familiar with. Here's a cricket. He takes his one wing and rubs it against another wing to make that chirp, 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 chirp sound that a cricket makes. But that's not quite how it works for a cicada. Just like male birds sing to attract females, male cicadas try to lure females with their songs. Cicada music is usually a loud buzzing or humming sound. Have you ever heard it? Let's see, I have something queued up here so you can get a little sense of what they sound like. Let's get this open here. Hear that sound? That is a cicada there making his sound. Kind of sounds like a rattle in a way. It can get really loud. Cicada's music is usually a loud buzzing or humming sound, but each cicada species has its own unique song that varies from tone and rhythm. So all the different types of cicadas have their own particular sound. Many insects, including crickets and katydids, we talked about crickets a second ago, make sounds by rubbing their body parts together. Cicadas do it in an entirely different way. Each male cicada has two tymbals. These are thin membranes supported by strong ribs located at the sides of their abdomen. So here we have a diagram of a cicada. And right behind the wing, they have it here. It's kind of in gold color, so it stands out what one of these tymbals is. And there's one on this side, and then there's one on the other side of its body. When the cicada tightens muscles attached to its tymbals, they buckle inward and make a clicking sound. When the muscles relax, the tymbals snap back into position and make another click. This can be done more than 300 times in 1 second. The sound that is created is amplified because the male body of the cicada's abdomen is mostly hollow. So it kind of acts like a drum. And when you beat a drum and it makes the sound that it does, the abdomen, the back part of the cicada, is actually mostly hollow. And so that sound that's created by the timbal resonates through the body and makes it even louder. The cicada life cycle. Here we're going to have an illustration showing what the life cycle of the cicada is. Whether a cicada lives for 1 year, 7 years, or 17 years, its lifespan is made up by 3 stages. There's the egg, the nymph, and then the adult. That's the 3rd stage. With its sharp tip ovipositors or egg depositors, a female cicada cuts little slits into plants, often tree twigs, and lays their eggs in there. So here I have a little example of what that might look like. This is a little plastic representation of what that tree limb, cut off here, might look like. And they lay these little white eggs into the slits that they cut into the twig or the arm of the tree or the plant. From the egg, the tiny nymphs hatch and then drop to the ground. So from the egg, these little tiny eggs, these nymphs, here's an example of a nymph. And these are all about the size that they would be too. So they're pretty big. These nymphs, they grow up to about this size after they get out of the egg. They drop down from the plant, from the tree, from the twig, onto the ground. And with their strong front legs, the nymphs burrow down into the soil and begin to suck on the fluids of the plant's roots. So they go down into the ground where the roots are, and then they attach to one of the roots and they start to suck the fluids that are running through the plant out so that they can live on that. So now they're underneath the ground, and the cicada's nymph hard skin is called its exoskeleton, the outer skeleton. In order to grow, a nymph must break out of its old exoskeleton, emerging with a soft skin that soon hardens into its new, bigger exoskeleton. This process is called metamorphosis. So, we've got the little nymph underneath the ground. He's sucking on the roots. As he grows up, he turns into a nymph. Here's an example of a nymph. Not particularly handsome, but harmless. Just a bug. As it grows up, it has to shed its hard skin, its carapace here, several times so that it can get into its full size. Nymphs continue to feed and grow, changing their exoskeletons at least 4 times as they go through their cycle, and then the cicada nymphs wait for the soil to warm up, and that's a signal for it's the time for them to dig up out of the ground. The nymph comes up out of the ground and climbs up a tree, a post, or some other standing object, and gripping tightly onto it. So let's say my arm is a tree. It grabs hold tight, and they go under one more final change. Their exoskeleton, their body, their hard shell, splits down the back, and the adult cicada wiggles out. And that grows up to be this. Here is a model of an adult cicada. After their wings unfold and dry, the cicadas crawl or fly to the highest treetops, and the males start that buzzing sound to attract the females, and the females respond. And the whole cicada life cycle starts all over again. Like all cicadas, periodical cicadas have a 3-stage life cycle: the egg, the nymph, and the adult. The egg, the nymph. The nymph is this comes from the egg, it becomes the nymph, and then it becomes the full-grown cicada. However, they spend many years in the nymph stage, then suddenly appear by the millions, and it seems like magic. These are the ones that stay underground for like 13 or 17 years. And because it's like magic that they come after being gone for so long, this particular cicada species were given the scientific name magic cicada. These cicadas all emerge in a week or two, and often many of them appear in just one night. This is why there are news reports of great insect invasions, because they all come at once. However, the cicadas do not swarm in or form far away like locusts. So they don't come in flying in. They come up from under the ground. They emerge from underfoot, from the soil of the lawns, backyards, parks, roadsides. For 13 or 17 years, they had been neighbors hidden underground. Then they emerged for their final adult stage of life. In the morning, when people come out, they discover that their soil is pockmarked with all kinds of countless little holes, because that's where the cicadas came up out. The openings of the tunnels from which the cicada nymphs emerged. Thousands of these little holes could be found beneath a single big tree. So picture that. Picture a tree in your lawn. Thousands and thousands and thousands of these nymphs will come up out of the ground, and it leaves a little hole behind for each one. And they come up out of the ground, and they crawl along the ground and up onto a tree. Already many adult cicadas have wiggled from their nymph skins. This final change takes about an hour. A newly emerged adult cicada is milky white, So when it pops out of the nymph skin for the last time, it's actually white. Its wings look like thick little flaps. The cicada pumps fluids that are in its body out in through those veins in its wings to fill it all out. They expand to full size. Within 2 or 3 hours, the periodical cicada's body turns black. The wing veins turn bright orange, and the bulging eyes a bright red. This model sort of has those colors. Here you can see in the illustration what that looks like. So we start with the body of the nymph splitting, splits along the back, and the adult cicada pops out. Notice its color. It looks kind of white. And its body has been all kind of squished up inside of the nymph body, so the wings aren't really folded out yet. But as it has a little bit of time, just a few hours, the cicada pumps fluids out into its wings, completely fills it out, and then it forms into the adult cicada right there. A few days after emerging from underground, male cicadas begin their buzzing sounds. Concentrating in trees, they are often close together in chorusing centers that attract females. Now, I kind of have an example here of what a whole bunch of them sound like. Let's see if I can get that up for you here.
But that sound is so loud and so annoying, and it's been going non-stop 24 hours for over a week now. And it'll probably continue for another 2 to 3 weeks. And look, our trees are full.
Look how many cicadas are all over that tree.
And all these dead,
those are the nymph shells.
of the cicadas.
Those are the shells that the adults emerged from. Pretty neat. The number of singing males can be huge, up to 750,000 cicadas per acre. Their sound can be very loud, nearly as loud as the roar of a jet airplane engine. Fortunately, cicadas stop singing in the evening, so people living nearby can have quiet nights. Insect-eating birds flock in to feast on the periodical cicadas, which are easier to catch than other cicada species. Grackles, starlings, jays, kestrels, crows, and other birds are attracted to the coursing insects. Dogs, raccoons, and skunks catch cicadas on or near the ground. However, cicadas' numbers are so great, there's so many of them, that they're so great that predators can eat their fill day after day, and there are still plenty of cicadas left to mate. Periodical cicadas are not good at avoiding predators, but overwhelm their enemies with sheer numbers. So in other words, there's so many of them that though a whole bunch of them get eaten, there's still plenty more to go. And here in this illustration, you can see a blue jay catching one of the cicadas. After mating, female periodical cicadas fly or crawl to the ends of tree branches. They cut little slits in the twigs, just like we talked, with their sharp ends of their ovipositors. With each slit, they lay between 10 and 30 eggs, then move on to another twig. A female can lay as many as 600 eggs in her lifetime. This egg laying may cut off the flow of water or nutrients at the twig's end. So often at the end of the branch, you'll see a few dead leaves at this time of year. So trees are not seriously harmed by this, just that end of the tree branch or the twig. The dead brown leaves that people see along roadsides or in backyards or parks are called flagging. And here you can see in this illustration someone walking along, and here's some tree branches, and though the tree looks totally healthy and normal, out on the far ends of the tree branches are maybe a few dead leaves. That's a sign that the cicada had planted their eggs in that twig, and they cut off all the juices of the plant going to those leaves. This egg laying may cut off the flow of the water and nutrients to the twig's end. Often, the end of the branch has a few dead leaves. Trees are not seriously harmed. The dead brown leaves that people see along roadsides and in backyards and parks are called flagging. We just said all that. And are a last dramatic reminder of the remarkable cicada spectacle that occurred weeks before. By the end of this flagging, all adult cicadas are dead. So by the time you see the flagging, the cicadas, this particular life has ended, but they planted the eggs for the future cicadas. At most, they have about 5 weeks of adult life. The eggs hatch in 6 to 10 weeks, and tiny nymphs, there's a little example of a nymph, fall from the twigs to the ground and burrow down into the soil, just like we talked about. At first, they may suck juices from the grass roots, but eventually they tunnel deeper and feed on tree roots. Periodical cicada nymphs sometimes burrow as deep as 8 feet. So that's tall. They go further down than, like, say, as tall as Daddy would stand. They also grow very slowly. A year may pass before a nymph molts, changing from their old skin into bigger ones. While they are underground, periodical cicadas molt maybe like 4, 5, 6 times. 6 years may pass between one molt and the next. The nymph grows at different rates, but all are in their final stage when it's time to emerge from the soil. 13-year cicadas know when 13 years have passed. 17-year cicadas know when 17 years has passed. Apparently, the nymphs count the years by tasting changes in the juices that they suck on the trees, in the tree roots. These fluids change as trees live through the seasons of a year. Sometimes, however, cicadas count wrong. For some unknown reason, some may emerge a year or more ahead or behind schedule. It does happen. The nymphs dig exit tunnels up near the surface. They wait for the warmth of springtime. So they dig back up. Oh, no, actually, it's the nymph. They've grown to this full size. The nymph digs its way back up. And when the soil temperature reaches 64 degrees Fahrenheit, it seems to be the key signal to come out. After many years in the dark, underground living, countless nymphs dig up into the air, ready for adult life. The adults are ready for a few weeks of flying, singing, mating, trying their best to produce another generation of their kind. And here are some illustrations of the nymphs down under the ground and sucking on the roots of a tree. Here's a little image of some of the tunnels that they dig. While laying eggs, female cicadas often choose the twigs of young trees growing in plentiful sunshine. Such trees are likely to thrive for many years. So if it's a young tree, it's likely to have a long life, and that's good for their young. The periodical cicadas sipping on the tree roots will also be able to thrive. Above ground, a lot can happen in 13 or 17 years. If a tree dies, cicada nymphs will tunnel in search of another living tree. However, if an acre of forest gets cut down and replaced with buildings or pavement, a whole population of cicada gets wiped out. When the time for a mass emergence arrives, no cicadas will appear from underground. By cutting down forests and making other habitat changes, people have caused local cicada populations to disappear. 2 entire broods have become extinct. One was brood 11, which lived in the Connecticut River Valley of Massachusetts and Connecticut. The other was brood 21, which lived in parts of Florida Panhandle and along Mississippi, Alabama border. People are worried about the future of these amazing periodical cicadas. They know that the key to cicada survival is protection of the forest habitats where they still live. So here you can see some people building a new home and stuff like that. And not being mindful that there's all the cicada living underground. So we want to be very mindful about clearing too many trees. Most entomologists, scientists who study bugs, agree that there are 7 species of magic cicada, periodical cicadas in the United States. And they're divided into 15 different broods. 12 of the broods are 17-year cycle cicada, and just 3 of the broods are 13-year cycle cicada. The colored dots on the map give a rough picture of where all the broods live. 17-year cicadas are red, 13-year cicadas are blue. In a few states, the home areas of the 13 and the 17-year-old cicadas, they kind of overlap a little. The different broods emerge as adults on their separate schedules, but come together once every 221 years. So the 13-year and the 17-year cicadas emerge together once every 221 years. And here's that map showing the red, which is the 17-year cicada, and the blue, which is the 13-year cicada. And I see Pennsylvania right about here. So there's a lot of 17-year cicada in Pennsylvania. Cicadas are well-liked insects all over the world. In Asia, African, and Latin America, they are a source of food. In general, over 1,000 different species of insects are human food in 90 different nations. So that might sound a little strange that some people eat bugs, but throughout the world, it's kind of common in a lot of areas. And cicadas in particular are really well-liked food. In China, cicadas are cooked on skewers and stir-fried. There are other popular recipes. Some people say that cicadas taste like shrimp. Centuries ago, Native Americans looked forward to the years when periodical cicadas suddenly appeared. The loud buzzing chorus signaled a few weeks of abundant food. Cicadas are also part of ancient folk tales and sayings. In China, the phrase, "to shed the golden cicada skin," means to fool enemies by using disguise or decoys. French people are especially fond of cicadas. Since 1895, the cicada, or the cigale, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correct or not, but the cigale have been an official symbol of Provence in southern France. Gift shops sell all sorts of cicada-shaped products such as the jewelry, soaps, magnets, and salt and pepper shakers. Cicadas in France are a symbol of summertime and happiness in Provence. They are also believed to bring good luck. Many homes in Provence have a ceramic cicada hung by their entrance door. When periodical cicadas suddenly appear in the United States, not everyone is pleased. Some people fear insects and are upset by cicadas surrounding their homes. The noisy buzzing is a nuisance. Some would say it's even an ordeal. Living in the midst of a magic cicada emergence can be a bit of a challenge. It can also be an honor to live in an area where one of nature's great spectacles takes place. It can be awe-inspiring. to know how long these cicadas have waited for their few weeks of adult life. Finally, out in the air and in the sunshine, it can be a time to celebrate. Hooray for cicadas! Here they are. The end. Again, that was Cicadas, Strange and Wonderful by Lawrence Pringle and Merrill Henderson. And I thought that was very informative. I did not know most of that about cicadas. I thought that was very interesting, and I hope you found it interesting as well. And we will have other stories to look forward to in the month of June, and I will see you then, okay? So you take very good care. I love you all. And we will see each other again for another episode of Story Time with Uncle Corey. Okay? Until then, take care. Love you. Bye-bye.